Hello, my dear friend. Welcome back to the mat and welcome back to Yoga with Paige. Today we have a nice lower body centered flow where we focus a lot on opening up through the backs of the legs, the hamstrings, glutes, and the groins, the psoas. So I do recommend having a block or two handy to help find your edge, deepen yourself, but not adding any force or aiding in any injury. We want to prevent injury, not cause it. So this practice is going to be all level friendly with our props as our aid here, but please take any variations or any modifications that you feel comfortable taking to make this class more accessible. We do jump right into our lower body here, so I do recommend a few minutes of a warm-up if this is your first movement of the day. It'll be kind of intense, I would assume. So make sure you're thoroughly a little bit warmed up. We jump right in, like I said, so we can get started in a nice easy seat facing the front of the mat. Settling in to your comfortable seat here, feet crossed at the ankles, hands can rest upon the knees. On your next in-breath, really focus your attention on lifting up through the spine, up through the crown of the head. Big breath in, really fill the belly, and big exhale out. Draw the navel into the spine, release. Finding a few more breaths to calm the nervous system, to come into this moment. Letting external tension and stress melt away as you breathe in new, fresh, invigorating air. On your next inhale, reach the arms above the head, and exhale, find a slight twist to the right. Inhale, reach, and outward twist to the left. Beautiful, moving with the breath, taking a few moments here to wake up through the spine, find some energy. We'll take one more round on either side. Maybe take your gaze up with the fingers and down. Returning back to center, extending your legs out, coming into staff pose in the center of the mat. Feet are flexed, toes lift up. We can lift the knees a little bit if we're a little tight here. We want the spine to be straight, sit bones to be rooted, so we don't want to round. Lift yourself up nice and proud. And just take your next few breaths to creep the fingertips towards the feet. Noticing any areas of extra tightness or tension. My lower body is very tight today, so this is a much needed release. We're going to practice finding our own edge where your body tells you to stop. Staying there. This is not an ego practice. Doesn't matter how far we go. It's about creating space. Perhaps you can deepen a little bit more on this next exhale, keeping those toes pointed up towards the ceiling. And as we find a stretch in the backs of our legs here today, keep a nice, active, controlled quadriceps. These will help you to find a little bit more movement, range of motion in the back of your legs, and it will help prevent injury. Beautiful. Come back to a nice long spine. Take the right foot into the left inner thigh, keeping those hips square. And then carefully fold over the leg, paying close attention to this left foot here. Maybe you can go a little bit further, or maybe your hands hang out here by the shin. One more big breath. And twisting your hips to open to the diagonal or the long edge of the mat. Reaching for this left foot as you reach this right arm overhead. So keeping your chest lifted to the side of the room, really reach with the fingertips, finding a nice stretch in the side of the rib cage, keeping the shoulders down away from the ears, really grounding your legs down into the mat. Beautiful. Raising back up, crossing this left leg on top of the right. The shins should be stacked. So if this is a little difficult, you can always place a block here to make this a little bit more accessible. You can place one under the hips as well. And it's okay if your legs don't necessarily stack and stay glued together. Just find wherever you're at and allow yourself to simply breathe and open up with time. Continuing to breathe as your chest naturally will begin to kind of move a little bit forward. Even a microscopic bit is an aid in flexibility and range of motion, mobility, but we want to keep the hips rooted down into the mat. And we have an option to stay here, continue working with your breath, or if we're feeling a little bit open here, a little bit open, we can find a little cradle. So tuck this right knee in a little bit more, the foot, and we can cradle the left shin. And you are welcome to try this and see how it feels in your body. We're trying to lift our heart center up to the sky as we lift our shin up. And if we're still super tight, this may not feel too comfortable. So try it out, gauge where you're at. Maybe find a little rocking motion. It is a cradle after all. Just working through those hips, releasing energy, releasing stagnancy. Wherever you're at, taking about 2 more breaths. And then carefully releasing, coming into windshield wipers. So planting your feet more than hip distance apart. And just moving your knees side to side. Working through the big hip joints. And then we repeat everything on the other side. Beautiful. This feels nice and lubricating here. And when you're ready, we meet back in staff position. Flexing your feet once again. Inhale, reach up. And exhale, begin to bend forward. Maybe this time you can straighten your legs a little bit more. Letting the sound of your breath guide you back into the here and the now. Whenever your mind starts to drift, to think of all these other things that are constantly fighting for our attention, well, this is where your attention should be. What do you feel? What can you notice about yourself? What can you observe? On your next inhale, lift nice and tall up through the spine, and on your exhale, float the fingers a little bit closer to the feet. Remembering to keep a nice active in those front leg muscles, those quadriceps. Squeezing them. Last breath here. And then take your left foot into the right inner thigh, square the hips. One more time, reach up and then fold. Big belly breaths. And then position your hips, shift your hips so we can reach for that beautiful foot as the left arm sweeps overhead, this big, big arc. If you can reach your foot, press your hand into the bottom of your foot here, and we're pressing both of the legs down so we can help ourselves rise up. Take 2 more big breaths. And when you're ready, carefully lift back up, coming into a fire log pose, seeing how it feels on this side, utilizing your props if you need to, or just playing around, maybe finding a different variation of this pose, noticing how it feels differently when we use props. Once again, keeping your chest lifted, sitting up tall, taking up this space, owning your space. Closing the eyes, perhaps, to help yourself connect deeper within. Continuing to let go of our external distractions, our external environment. And staying here in our fire log pose or coming into our little cradle. Always options. And if none of these feel good, or at any time, if one of these postures does not feel good, you can always return to a nice child pose, downward facing dog, whatever your body needs. This is your practice, this is your time to explore. All right, and coming back into our windshield wipers one more time. Plant those feet wide and open up those hips. Beautiful. All right, and meeting in tabletop on your hands and knees, preparing to warm up the spine a little bit more with some cat-cow. So press down through the tops of the feet, really spread the fingers wide, and on your inhale, drop the belly, lift the gaze. Exhale, round through the back, really pressing into and away from the mat. Syncing breath to movement here, finding your sense of flow. Another feel-good round or two. and then leaning back in tabletop neutral spine, gazing between the thumbs. Tuck the toes and rock yourself back up onto your heels at the back of the mat. So coming into a little flow here to continue opening up the backs of the legs. We're either in a squat, maybe we can touch our heels down to the ground. Now we can use our block here if we can't quite reach, if you want to grab it. We're coming from a squat to a little forward fold, so we can widen the feet a little, find what feels good to you here. A squat to a forward fold. Maybe we can place the block like this. We get a little bit more room. Maybe we want to lift the hands off. One movement per breath, and I encourage you to play around with your breath at this time and see if exhaling to lift your hips or exhaling to drop your hips feels better. I know we were taught certain movements for inhalations and exhalations, but sometimes it can be fun to explore and see how the breath really aids or hinders your movement. A few more. Finding strength in the ankles here. This is great for your tendons, for your joint health. And whenever you are ready, I'll take another round or two. We meet in a nice squat, a Malasana. So we can send the toes out to the edges, sink the hips even lower, and now we focus on opening through the inner groins, on lifting the chest. Your feet can be up on a block, like so. We can rest our hips on a block. But your heels do not have to be all the way down either. Use that breath. Finding a few moments of stillness, of quiet connection before we begin moving a little bit more. For these next few breaths, I encourage you to bring your hands to heart center. Feel your energy, feel your warmth. As you continue to breathe, and just notice the natural rhythm of your breath right now. And on this next exhale, release the hands down, fingertips down, move your blocks if you were using them, and we walk the fingertips up, coming into a downward facing dog. So turn the feet to point towards each other. Begin walking your fingertips out and your feet together. Hold here, gaze at the hands, and bend the knees a few times, coming up onto the balls of the feet to bend them, and then press them back, sending the hips up and the heels down. Then come into a static downward facing dog. Gaze at the hands, lift the heels, roll through into a nice high plank. Gaze between the thumbs, core is connected. Draw the elbows into the sides as you lower down, chaturanga. Tap the nose to the mat. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, roll over the toes, back to downward facing dog. Let's try that one more time. Inhale, lift the heels. Exhale, roll. Take a breath, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. And exhale, downward facing dog. Ground down through this right leg. Send the left up behind you, three-legged dog. Bend the knee and draw the knee in for a few big hip circles. Really work through that joint. Pressing away from the mat. Take one more big circle. Then draw the knee in high to the chest, plant it in between the hands. Rise up nice and strong, a big high lunge, square the hips, then turn that foot out to a nice warrior one. Squaring the hips to the front, ground down through the back edge of the foot. Inhale and exhale, open the hips to the side, warrior two. Beautiful. Find a round of breath here. Draw the shoulder blades together, gaze over the left fingertips. And straighten the front leg. Inhale, send the hips back, prepare for triangle. If you need to grab your block, place it down on the inside of your left ankle, or we can rise up onto the shin, the calf, reaching the right fingertips up and the hips back. Create space. Hold here. And using your strength, rise back up. Two nice straight legs coming through our warrior two, bending the front knee. Then inhale, extended side angle. Drop that left fingertip down again as you reach the right hand over. 2 rounds of breath here. Beautiful. Circle that arm around. Come up onto the back ball of the foot, dropping the right knee down. And raise up the hips up into a lower lunge. So find your positioning here first. Find what feels good, squaring the hips. Sinking the pelvis down and forward. Feel the right psoas open up. Feel it speak to you. And again, we can also use our blocks here because we're about to move. So inhale, low lunge, and exhale, half splits. Straighten the front left leg and flex the foot. Inhale, lunge, and exhale. Perhaps feeling yourself go a little bit deeper each time. Last one. We end in our lower lunge and we come into a side lunge skandasana. So lift up the back knee, turn onto the right heel as you lift the chest. You can plant the fingertips for stability. We focus on opening through the groins, so squeeze those glutes, sink the hips low. Beautiful. Plant the fingertips if they were raised. Come up onto the feet and we come into a little moving side lunge. So bending one knee and then the other. Just deeper and deeper. More movements. And next, straightening both of the legs, coming into a wide angle forward fold. So really ground down through the outer edges of the feet here, lifting the arms up, and then release the chest down. Perhaps grabbing both of the ankles. And finding a twist. You can walk this right hand over to the left ankle, reach for it. Pull yourself closer to the leg. Maybe release this left hand behind you to deepen the twist, but whatever feels good to you. Breathe here for 2 breaths. Then carefully come back to center fold. Inhale, lift the chest. Exhale, walk the fingertips over to that left foot, send it back, downward facing dog. Finding a few more spinal rolls. Inhale, lift the heels. Exhale, roll through. A little freestyle here. We can take a vinyasa or work through the spine. One more big round of breath. Ending in our downward facing dog. This time sweeping the right leg up high, bending the knee, and making your hip circles. Drawing large circles with the knee. And then taking that knee in through the chest, nice and high. Step it through, reach up, nice high lunge, and find your warrior one, turning that back foot out. Keeping the shoulders nice and down, you're a strong warrior. Beautiful. Exhale, warrior two. Draw the shoulder blades together, peek over your right hand. Straightening the legs. Prepare for your version of triangle. Grabbing your prop if you need to. Breathing. Connect to your core. Lift back up from where you came. Exhale, warrior two. Inhale, extended side angle. Reach the left arm over, big strong line from fingertips to the edge of your foot. Exhale. Come back and frame this right foot. Drop the left knee, raising up into your low lunge, Anjaneyasana. Find a few refreshing breaths here. Finding your alignment first, maybe taking your blocks up as we prepare for our little dynamic low lunge half splits. And exhale. Work through that right hamstring. Beautiful. Enjoying the sound of your breath and the feeling of moving your body, of getting stronger, releasing what is no longer serving you, opening yourself up to yourself, to the world. And when you're ready, coming up into our Skandasana, moving to the side, flexing that left foot. Nice and active quadriceps here. Remember, lifting up, sink the hips low, keeping your heart open. Breathing fresh new life in with every inhale. And finding our side lunges, bending one knee and the other. And our wide-legged forward fold. Find your sense of grounding here through the feet before lifting the hands and folding down. Letting the blood rush to the head. Enjoying this new sensation as you hang, release tension in the shoulders. Decompressing the spine. And then make your way, tickling the left fingertips over to the right ankle. Finding a small twist in the back, wringing everything out, aiding your digestion system. That's always good. And exhale, release, come back through center. Turning to gaze over your beautiful right foot, sweeping it back. This time coming down onto the knees, crossing the feet at the ankles, coming through an easy seat to plant both of the feet on the ground. Keeping this right foot planted down, we lift the left and we cross it over the ankle. Hands are behind you, pushing your chest closer to your legs. Feeling a nice stretch in your outer left glute. Lifting the chest up to the sky. Perhaps feeling a nice opening in the front of the shoulders as well. Then releasing this bottom leg down onto the ground. Taking your left foot, extending the leg, coming into a little half heron pose here. Keeping your right hand on the mat for stability, or trying to reach both for the ankle, pulling the leg in as close as you can, feeling that hamstring one more time. Then keeping your right knee bent where it is, sweep this left leg behind, bending it, coming into a deer pose. So shooting this pelvis to the corner of the mat, finding a little twist here. Last few moments of opening. As you notice where your energy is at right now, how your breath is doing. But noting, no need to change any of it. And from your deer pose, extending your left back leg, coming into a pigeon. Allowing a few moments to settle in here. So please place a block underneath your hips if you need to. That way, this way. You can also place it underneath your knee. Or no prop at all. Whichever makes this feel better to you. And know that your shin does not need to be parallel to the top of your mat. That is a common misconception, which actually torques your knee out to the side and is just not that comfortable for your body. So find what feels good for you here and carefully use this time to melt your chest down. Releasing tension in the neck. If you're holding it there, maybe in your forehead. Find a few calming breaths. As you send your awareness once again to the hips, soften them. And when you're ready to press back up, still staying in your pigeon, kick this back ankle up, reaching for the foot, pulling it into the hips. We can use this here. We can come into a little mermaid, king pigeon if it is in your practice. I already feel that this is not in my practice today. I can do a little variation, but find what works for you. Just working through the front of the thigh. Only for about 2 more breaths. And exhale to release. Swing that leg around and we come into the other side. Crossing the right ankle over the left knee. Pressing through the hips. Flexing this top foot. Feel free to move your legs closer at any time. Adjust your position. Get to know your body. What feels good, what doesn't. Big breath in and out. Coming into your half heron pose, whatever version works for you here. Grounding down through that left leg, working through the sacral and the root chakra a lot today. Your sense of belonging, of stability, groundedness, confidence, and exhale, deer pose. Moving carefully with love. Breathing. Remembering to send your hips out to the corner as you lift up through the crown of the head. And then facing the front of the mat, coming into your pigeon, nice and slow. Find some ease as we wind ourselves down. And as you continue to breathe, we can maybe work ourselves down a little closer to the mat, to the earth. Connecting to the earth's energy, knowing that you are an integral part of it. Let the earth hold you. And carefully lifting the chest, walking the hands back, finding your version of this quadricep stretch. Any variation will do. This is great if we sit all the time, because this stretch radiates all the way from your pelvis here, your psoas, all the way down. You can even feel it running around your calf a little bit, especially if you kind of play with it and you move your foot around, hitting different muscles around your quadricep. Taking one final big gaze around the room and your environment as it is right now. And on your next exhale, carefully unravel, release, and press back into a big wide child pose. Widen the knees, reach the hands out, and find a nice few minutes of quiet. If you would rather be in a corpse pose for the Shavasana, please take that now. Anywhere that you can, find a nice final resting position. To be with your breath and be as utterly silent and still as possible. resisting the urge to fidget. Focus on your breath. And as our practice comes to a close here today, you can gently begin coming back into your body, the feeling, sensation, and stay in your chosen position or make your way to a comfortable seat where we can find one last moment of gratitude for this practice that heals us from the inside out. Taking one big final breath together. I thank you so much for joining me here today for whatever brought you back to the mat, to this practice, and for allowing me to be your guide here. I would love to know how this went for you, and I look forward to the next time I see you.